Yep.
You tried.
Okay. I think we're live. Okay, we're live. We're live. Hello. I think we're live. Yes. Hello, welcome, friends. Welcome to this inaugural, I guess, episode of the Kiro Twitch weekly show thingy here on Twitch, YouTube, LinkedIn, and Twitter. We stream all over the place. Yeah, so hey, hi chat, hello friends from Discord. My name is Darko, and I do kinds of a lot of things with Kiro. I am what they call a developer advocate, and I get to talk to all of you. You've probably seen me on Discord, and we've interacted, hopefully. So if yes, hello. Today, I have Nathan here with me, and we're going to be talking about a lot of things of Kiro. Why Kiro? How Kiro? Certain things we've done in Kiro. We want to help and answer your questions. So I have chat here, so I can go ahead and look at the chat. So feel free to drop the questions in. I'm going to try to get to all of the questions you asked. I do heavily encourage you to go and check out Discord. Discord.gg/Kiro.dev is if you want to join the Discord. There's been a whole lot of people there having fun and discussing Kiro and sharing expertise and best trips and all stuff. Before we kick it off, Nathan, tell chat, who are you, what do you do, and my favorite question, what's objectively the best programming language in the world?
Well, that's a hotly debated topic, but I'll start with my name. So my name's Nathan. I'm the software manager here at Amazon, and I lead the Kiro team, and we've been working on it for about a year now, trying to get this out to people.
Exactly. Kiro has been really fun, and it's been a wild ride since the launch, and well, even before the launch, and I've seen this tremendous response to how people perceive Kiro and how they like it or don't like it and whatnot. So huge fan of. Thank you all for the feedback we've gotten. Thank you all for using it, trying Kiro out, and all those things. So I want to say hello to the chat. A couple of questions. Can we turn on subtitles? I think Twitch itself has some sort of subtitles. We don't have it natively built in here. So yeah, thank you so much. Look at the chat. Thank you. Chat, tell us where you're joining us from, please. We're both coming live from Seattle, Washington, in this wonderful little studio here. Do we have a name?
Not officially.
Not officially.
So chat, we have secret names.
We have secret. So chat, the ghost behind us, this thing, we technically don't have a name. So you're more than welcome to name it, I guess. Amazing. Okay, cool. So I guess let's kick it off. Let's start off with a little behind the history of Kiro. How did Kiro come to be? What was the idea? And what made you build something like spec-driven development? Mm-hmm. What can you share?
Yeah. So for us, what we found over time, especially in my experience in my career, what I have seen is the most important thing when you're building sustainable software.
Yeah.
It is you need to really be intentional about the way that you're building software is you are communicating to other engineers in a language that a computer understands. So it's really about communicating with your peers, communicating with people that may be maintaining it in the future. And it is like collaborating with your coworkers. And what we wanted to do was have a development environment that really mirrored this working relationship.
Yep.
So we wanted you to be able to focus on what was the problem that you want to solve? What do you want to try to build? Breaking down, distilling the problem, talking through how you want this to work instead of spending so much time on exactly what you want to, the mechanics of what you want to build. So thinking about the problem to solve and less about the implementation.
Yeah.
So spec-driven development allows you to really focus on that to where you can distill the problem that you have, distill how you want the software to behave, and then the implementation comes naturally.
Right, and this has been a discussion I had with Mark Brooker. Mm-hmm. Chat, there's going to be a link to our YouTube channel where you can find a video with Mark Brooker and myself, who's a distinguished engineer here at AWS, and we talked about this whole thing of how LLMs these days are just another layer of abstraction. Mm-hmm. And one of the great examples of he gave it to me is SQL.
Yeah.
I think that's I never even thought about SQL being a superly abstracted language, but it is, right?
Yeah.
You don't really care about the implementation, how it's working a little bit maybe, but ultimately you give it these set of instructions of what it should do, and it just does it for you, right? Mm-hmm. And this is kind of where all the stuff happens with LLMs. Now, spec-driven development specifically, right? My thoughts on that is I'm a huge fan of how it leaves me in control.
Right.
Right. So when I built something in the past, your typical traditional vibe coding. Traditional vibe coding was affected like, I would just kind of throw stuff at chat and see what happens, and then stuff happens, and it's good and it's bad, whatever, right?
Yeah.
But as I did the vibe coding thing, it slowly kind of got away from me. Right. Like I felt like I'm losing control. I have no idea what's being generated right now. I don't really know what happened, and I can't really go back. So spec-driven development helped me kind of keep this control. So what's the story behind spec-driven development?
Right. So what we found with spec-driven development was that these AI tools, these foundational models, they're super powerful, and it unlocks much more productivity than we've ever seen before. The problem is the way that people were interacting with them did not resemble the way that we had built software before. So at Amazon, we're very intentional about having a doc-driven culture where we're working together to really understand the problem that we want to solve before we get down to implementation, because you don't want to spend a week coding and then decide like, oh, this was not the right approach at all. Exactly. So we wanted to make the process of working with LLMs more resemble that process that we have today, where you want to understand what you're building and why before you're spending all that effort in doing it. And now that the cycle is shorter, where you can work with an LLM in a couple hours, you can have something that might have taken you a week before. But if you're going down the wrong direction, you're still wasting a lot of effort. So we want to have more control. We want it to be more predictable. We want it to be something where you're growing in confidence that you're moving to the right solution as you're doing it.
Yeah, exactly. And like for folks out there, like one of the things that comes from AWS where we work is this whole writing culture, where before you go into anything, you write this big old doc. And that gets kind of translated to spec-driven development. Yeah. Now, spec-driven development is not something tremendously new. It existed in the past. People would write these specs in the past specifications, and they would build software with it manually, right? But this thing now, kind of, we're trying to educate you folks that like spec-driven development will help you distill your wishes, distill what you exactly want into more reasonable chunks. So you've all seen Kiro folks using it. When you request to create a spec, one of the first things that come out is something called a requirements doc, right? And requirements doc seems interesting, but it's absolutely nothing new, right? All software developers in the past would use like something called user stories, right? And user stories typical as a user, I want blah, 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 blah. When I blah, 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 right? It has a certain requirement to it and certain success criteria. So that's kind of the first element here. And then that's being generated by Kiro in this case, right? So helps you kind of narrow down those things. Has this form of a requirements doc evolved over time?
It has. So, and what we kind of going back to the process and the flow itself, like what we saw with a lot of the tools out there today is they solve the I need to type faster problem. Okay. Where vibe coding, it helps you generate code very, very quickly. Yeah. But like if you look at the whole life cycle of software development, from creation to management to evolving it, adding features over time, the hands-on keyboard phase of development is very, very small. So what we found as we were working on early stages of Kiro, there were things where we were a lot more opinionated on the process, and originally we were working on building it as a test-driven development flow where we wanted to solve this problem of guiding the LLM over implementation. And so the first idea that we had is we wanted to come up with all the tests up front. So we knew like we agree what we want to build, and then we'll go to the implementation. But like we found that too rigid, and we found we're not solving a lot of the other problems in defining a new feature where with our newer version of spec development flow, it helps us understand the problem that we want to solve as much as it helps us build it.
Yeah. And like, you all write tests before you write code. Is that right, chat? We all do, right? Well, this is a cool thing. Like, I think like approaching it from a test-driven developments first is a great idea. However, I feel like that can run into a lot of problems. Especially, I've noticed LLMs recently, they tend to over-mock things or overemphasize on mocking. And that can lead you to a rabbit hole that just like breaks a lot of things. So a spec or requirements doc is potentially a looser way of that, but still kind of giving relatively rigid instructions of what needs to happen.
We also found it brings more people into the conversation. So if the first artifact that we're building is unit tests, that is very limited in the number of people that can collaborate on that. So if you're coming up with human readable requirements, it's something where You can bring in stakeholders, you can bring in your product team, you can bring in your design team, you can bring in the engineers, you can bring in your customers. So everybody can work on these first phases together.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's a huge kind of a difference here, because I've seen people already started sharing their specs. So like it's not maybe a fully shareable artifact, but I know some folks out there have started like considering building a platform where they can have a centralized hub where people will share the requirements docs. And requirements doc can actually be shared to an extent. Like, for example, if you're a company and like you want to implement auth for your specific application, you have a dedicated requirements doc for doing that. So like you can just implement that into Kiro, well, import it into Kiro, and then have Kiro, based on your architecture, based on your current application, generate the rest of the things, right? So, yeah, please.
Well, I was just going to say, and we really think of it as like when you have a pull request or commit, like part of the code review process, and kind of going into how do we have Kiro solve more of the problems of the engineer throughout the software development lifecycle. We see a pull request or a code review as a way of encapsulating the intention around a change.
Yeah. So
the spec itself, that can be something like it is just a very detailed description of the change that you're going to make. So we want to have a flexible system to where everybody can find a workflow that works for them. But one of the things that we have seen people do is have a spec as like a description in the pull request. So that's something where maybe you're keeping it around longer term, maybe you're not, but at a minimum, it helps to communicate why you made a change the way you did.
Exactly. And I'm going to bring this up right now on my screen so folks can see it. So just so you know what we're talking about. I know a lot of folks here have been using Kiro, but for folks who haven't, I'm going to show it to you how this thing looks like. So I'm going to share this window. Let me see. Okay, looks.
Engineers on.
We have engineers.
A couple.
From Kiro. Hey, thank you folks for building this thing. So so this thing, what you're seeing on my screen right now, is a spec. Actually, a requirements doc. I keep calling them specs, but like,
that's fine.
How would you? Is this a spec? No. Is everything here a spec? I guess
everything's a spec. They're just components.
Okay. So this is one of the requirements I built even last week, where I was like building a little command line application. Now, my key part about building this thing with Kiro was I gave it. My ask was for a very limited application. Like, I didn't go ahead and tell it, build me all the bells and whistles in it. Like, I told it, I want the command line application that is built in Rust, objectively the best language in the world. And it should use Amazon Transcribe to create transcriptions from videos. That's it. Nothing else. Don't implement auth, don't implement logging, don't implement configuration files, none of it. And I told it, and it created these kind of different requirements. As you can see here, like requirement 1, a user story. As a user, I want to pass a video file and an S3 bucket name and a command line argument so that I can transcribe an audio content without manual file selection. Right? And then, of course, it went through that and it created an acceptance criteria. I think this one overall had like 5 or 6 requirements. That's it. Like, it's a relatively simple requirements.
Yeah. And we know these are important to have. Nobody wants to write them.
Exactly, right. You can absolutely go ahead and write yourself. Kiro will accept. I know in the past I brought a requirements doc to it.
If you have user stories, if you have anything, you can put it in, and we actually have that button for refine. That will help you kind of get. We have a slightly opinionated approach on. We use a format called EARS, Easy Something Requirements Syntax.
ERS?
EARS.
EARS.
Yeah. So the EARS format.
If you Google EARS, you'll get EARS. EARS requirements. Okay.
The easy approach to requirement syntax.
Okay.
But yeah, so we have a structured format that we found is the best approach when working with these models. They're trained well for it. They respond well for it. It's something that is easy for them to validate. So we'll help you kind of restructure it into this format. If you have another one that you prefer, you can have your requirements in the format that you like, and then kind of take design and tasks from there.
So what I've noticed is that if I give it like my own doc, like I've come up with like, hey, here's a single user story, or like not even a user story, like this is my requirement, and I try to detail it as much as I can handwritten, and says like, oh, this doesn't look like a requirements doc. Let me fix that for you, and it takes it and it converts it to something like this. Okay, so that's a good thing, because it's going to be able to give this kind of a standardized way of doing these things. Okay, so what happens after requirements? Like, by the way, so the requirements design and task list, is this an industry standard way of doing stuff? Or is this something we've kind of like...
Generally, so we found initially we had it all in one shot, where we had a single design doc that it would give all three of these kind of components, where it was more of a what we consider a design doc, where it'll have a couple functional, non-functional requirements. It'll have the proposed architecture change or how you're going to amend the system, and then it would have a breakdown implementation list. But the same idea that we have with Kiro as a whole is to get the best results, you really need to nudge the model as you go. So what we found is if you focus first on what you want and why, the design approach is much better.
Okay.
And then if it knows the architecture that you want, it can break down how to achieve that. And so if you do everything up front all in one go, it'll have an anchoring effect where if it builds this whole architecture and then you say, well, I didn't want that, I wanted to change my authentication, or like I wanted no throttling, everybody can use it, or whatever it might be. If you try to amend the requirements after it's gone through the whole plan, it won't make the adjustment as well as if you aligned on those up front.
Yeah, that's fair. So, and I think this makes a lot of sense. So going to the next part is the design part, and now this is a lot more technical implementation of your requirements, right? This is where it actually goes through, like, talks about specific core components of your things, like parsers and clients and file handlers. Even defines, like in my case, it defines like specific structs for specific things here. And it kind of just defines how my application looks like. Well, actually, not how my application, how this specific feature is going to be implemented, right? And this is something we talked about in the previous live stream, is specs should not be used to create the whole application itself. You should try to use them granular to create individual.
We think of it as a proposed change to the system.
Proposed change. Okay, there you go. Yeah, okay. I like that.
Yep.
So, and it creates this whole kind of like a much more technical thing. And what's great about this thing is you as an engineer, as a developer, can look at this and say, yes, I agree. This is how the struct should look like, or this is how my function should be. Like, I feel like this works well. And you can actually modify it, right? You can tell it to do different things, right?
And for the 3 phases, requirements, that's something that you would talk to somebody outside the engineering team. Whether you're working directly with a CEO on a small team, a designer, you have a product team, external customer, like whoever it is that you're interfacing with to make a change, you'll talk about the requirements. And then the design is that's kind of within the engineering team. How are we going to do this? And then task list, that might be like if you're a lead engineer talking to an intern or somebody that is less experienced, or even just 2 peers. How are we going to break down this work? How are we going to do it together?
Exactly. I love to look at the design doc because again, I love to be in control. So when I see this proposed idea or design of the changes that Kiro wants to do, I like it. I'm like, okay, I understand what you're going to do. Like, it's not anything that's completely out of this world that I won't get what it's doing. So this is a big deal for me. And then I guess lastly, we go to something called a task list. And this is one of the key things that I think makes Kiro great. It makes it slow. Like, it's not like if you're used to vibe coding, it just kind of does all things in one go. It makes it relatively slow, but it keeps you in control. And task lists are here, but basically just broken down tasks from your design doc and your requirements doc that Kiro needs to execute on, right? And so what happens here with Kiro? So like if I tell Kiro, so these are all completed. If I tell Kiro run a task, what does Kiro get? Does it just get this bullet point in the list here?
So that is changing over time. It's evolving. We're constantly learning. Typically, what we'll give it is it has the full context of your spec.
Sure.
But we're going through a lot of performance optimizations to really distill what is the most important things for the model to have in order to execute its work. So you can generally think of it as today it has all 3 of these files. That may change over time, but really what we want to do is give Kiro exactly the context that's needed for that specific piece of work. Yeah,
exactly. Okay, that's really good. That's really good. Again, I think that definitely helps the way it works. Another question to this. Right now, and this may change as well. So when I go ahead and create a new spec, when I tell it, implement whatever feature, right? Does it take the previous specs into context, or does it at least look up the design docs from them or something that it's aware that this is the way things were implemented, or does it just look at the source code and just guesses?
So it doesn't unless you ask it to.
Okay.
You can create if one spec is influenced by another. In the chat, when you're asking it to create a new spec,
Sure.
you can reference a file. You can also reference files within the spec docs.
Okay.
So if there's something where if you have a specific requirement and you say like, hey, I want it to be influenced by this other system, just tell the agent.
Oh, okay, that's fair. So I want to address a couple of questions here. So chat, I'm looking at the other different screen here. So I see Sail Wanderer says one spec for feature. Ooh, yeah, exactly. That's one of the kind of the better practices. It's going to make it a lot more stable, a lot more consistent when you build stuff. So I'm going to give you an example here. So this application, again, I think I can even run it maybe. Let's see. I have a little video somewhere in movies. Oh, I'm not sharing my screen. Yes, that's why. I think I can do it from here. So let me show you this application. So you can do a thing, CD, movies. I have some videos here. And I will do, I don't know, this one. And I will do pre-stoop. Okay, so it doesn't know where it is. CD, workspace, repos, not pre-stoop. Okay. So this application here, cargo run dash. The name of the file is this. No, it's movies, this. And then I just need to give it a bucket name. And bucket name is going to be AWS Darko videos. This thing is going to go ahead and compile the application and going to go and run stuff. It's a relatively simple application, nothing to it, but it doesn't do. I have to pass all the stuff as a command line parameters.
Sure.
A feature here would be adding a configuration file, right? So instead of just telling it outright in the beginning to do it, what I like to do is give it a specific spec just for that, right? So I'm going to cancel this one out. Close this.
Doing such a good job.
I know, man. I'm also live streaming from this laptop, so just so you know, I don't want to kill the stream. But in the spec here, so I can tell it, I want a new feature. Is this a good way to do a prompt?
Sure, yeah.
I want a new feature that will implement a configuration file for my current application. In the config file, I want to store the AWS S3 bucket. Right? Super simple, but let's give it a shot. And I know chat is waiting for this thing to fail now. So it's going to say, please try again, but let's give it a shot. Okay. So, but you will see now it goes ahead and starts generating requirements. And this will be a brand new set of requirements. Yeah. Here a doc will be. And hopefully it's a simple enough requirement that it won't generate like tens of tasks, right? So, but that's the whole point. Simple, ask it a single thing, like how many requirements we have? Like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 requirements, right? Does this match my criteria? Storing using TOML. Sure, it chose the TOML. Configuration validation, startup. Yeah, like all of these things that I want. I don't know if it's going to implement unit test because it loves to implement unit test.
So it won't talk about it at this point.
Yeah, it won't. Okay, yeah. So move to design phase. And then it's going to go ahead and start creating that design doc. In a second, the thing is, okay, let me first examine your current code base. Mm-hmm. So it was smart enough to go ahead and realized, yeah, let me look at how does it look like right now so it can design the feature specifically. Before even looking at before creating the requirements doc, it didn't look at my code.
Right.
It was just kind of like based on my prompt, here's what I think you should do.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then looks at my code, opens up the design doc, and starts generating it. Okay. And when making changes to it, so for example, it's doing this right now. If I go back to requirements and manually make changes to this and hit save, can I ask it again to create a design doc based on my changes?
Sure. So you can click refine and it'll update. Or what we really recommend is you can edit that manually, but it's a lot easier to just ask the agent. Say like, hey, I have this new requirement. I didn't think about this. And that's part of the workflow that we expect is in the same way that if you're designing software old-fashioned way, we'll go through the design and we'll think, oh, shoot, we didn't think about this edge case or we didn't think about this use case. Right. And so we want to go up and update it. So you can ask the agent, it'll update all three of the phases if you have it, to where even if you have the test list planned, there's always going to be stuff that comes up.
But your suggestion is don't do it manually because
you can if you want.
Okay.
But yeah, so if you update the design manually, you can ask for it to sync it across the other ones, or you can just do it yourself.
Okay, pretty cool. Okay, so it has generated a design doc here. What's great about it, it looked at my file structure and realized that I do like a bunch of modules for my application, so I decided to create modules as well. So it's following my best practices to it, even though I don't have it outlined. So it just kind of looked at my code and decided it's going to do. It's a relatively simple implementation. I'm going to go ahead and see what the tasks list is going to be here. So now it's going to go ahead and generate the tasks. And I think it should be a relatively simple implementation. I'm going to let it do it. Hope for the best. While we talk about something else. So I just want to see the task generated here. Again, this makes it so great. And the way I execute tasks, and this is something that was shown to me the last time by David, is I usually used to click the button, run tasks, but I actually just tell Kiro. I can just tell run my tasks now, and it does it. So I did notice that it tends to stop there for a while. So it's like, okay, I'm done. And like on the third task, I'm like, oh, please continue, thank you.
Right.
So, and is it arbitrary? I don't know, but I remember it stopping at certain points.
At some points, it doesn't try to go too far without asking for confirmation.
And I appreciate that.
I prefer to click the buttons, but everybody's got their own workflow.
Okay. So finalize task list, perfect. Configuration model structure, configuration data structures. Now, these are all simple tasks. Like when it says implement a configuration model structure, literally is going to create a bunch of structs in my code, and that's it. Just stop there. Beautiful. Super simple task. I'm pretty much sure it's going to be doing it. Be able to do that. Okay, high volume of stuff. Perfect. Retry. Let's go. You can do it. Let me check. It's already been defined for the feature. You know what? We're good. We don't have to do that. Start task. So it's going to go and start executing this task, and we're going to come back to it later on as it starts doing stuff, because we don't want to keep on looking at it. Okay, so let me try to go back to the chat. Oh my God, chat! So many questions. Thank you all for 1,000 people here. Look at that. There's a wait list for Kiro, Mr. Samson King. Sailor Wonder says task MD is my favorite file. We all do love thing. I love the showcase interfaces. The design of the application is pretty nice. I do love the way that you built it, the whole sidebar. Why not a plugin?
So what we wanted to do was the plugin versus application debate went on for quite a while. But in the end, we think that the world around agentic development is going to evolve very, very quickly, and we just couldn't offer the experience that we wanted in a plugin itself. We do think that the way that you interact with these agents, while it's probably 90% code, 10% agent right now, over time that's going to change. Things like that, the spec workflow where it has everything tightly integrated, and things like agent hooks where we're able to listen to file changes. There's a lot of features like that just wouldn't have been possible in an extension. So as we continue to evolve the experience, we wanted to make sure that we had the flexibility to provide the best possible experience for customers.
I agree. And I think one of the features was like notifications, right? That was one of the things that I was told, like, you can do notifications with a plugin.
Right.
So yeah, that's why it's a fork of code open source. I see somebody's making fun of me here, so make sure you don't go over your daily quota limit. Hey, I'm in the same box as you all are, just so you know. But that's the whole thing. Like we've introduced some of these updates to the service to just make sure that folks using it out there can have a good experience. Right?
Sure. So I will say we have been absolutely blown away by how many people have installed Kiro. Like we thought that this was something that we enjoyed using it internally. We were excited about it. We had the developer community internally in Amazon growing very quickly. But the reception that we've gotten from customers has exceeded all of our expectations. So we've had to make some changes to make sure that the people that are using it have the best experience that we can offer. And we're working on expanding it to more customers as quickly as we possibly can.
Exactly. So you have folks in the chat, and if you're on Discord, you may have noticed there's like an announcement and like an update stuff that we've done before. So there's been some changes to Kiro, both in the application itself and also the documentation. Is that basically just making sure that for all of you that are using it can have a great experience, right? So stand by. We know it. We know. And folks like Nathan and his team are working on it hard. So I'm super happy. Is there something like is there something you can share with us? Share with me what you've done to make it better now? Is there something?
So we have been focused on performance and efficiency as much as we can to be able to remove things like lift that limit, let more people download it. Our cache efficiency has improved pretty dramatically. The load that we're putting on the system that supports our models, that's improved pretty dramatically. It's only been out for a week, but we've we're preparing our second release in order to improve efficiency.
Okay.
So we're making progress very, very fast, and we hope to be able to lift those limits soon. I can't get any specifics now because it's a constantly evolving situation.
Yeah. And you folks know software development, you can't really commit to any specific time, so fully understood. But I'm happy it's happening. Yeah. I'm happy the way this is doing it. Also, chat, we've taken your feedback quite directly, right? There's been a lot of folks on Discord and a lot of folks kind of reaching out through social media, telling us about features and pricing and all those things. We've taken a lot of that stuff. You may know this. There's a bunch of new stuff in the FAQ about the pricing. We want to make sure that we do you justice. So while the product is in preview, we do have a what's the official word we use? It's generous, substantial. We have a specific quota limit you have, and as the tool exits out of preview, we don't know when. Those things are going to kind of align to certain things. So please do let us know. Please keep telling us what you want from the service. Please keep telling us feedbacks and updates. I think there's over 500 GitHub issues these days. I don't even want to look. Too many. I remember a couple of days ago it was 435, so I'm sure there's more than 500. But keep those issues coming in. Keep those suggestions coming in. We want to make sure to, give you a good product, right? Mm-hmm. So, okay.
We've been really impressed by some of the quality and the detail and the feedback and some of the issues.
Yeah.
We've been blown away.
Yeah, exactly. A question here, when can we update on Linux? We're aware of that, right? Aware of the Linux update issue, so please do stand by. Awesome. Couple of questions here. Thank you so much for like all of the stuff with loving it. Somebody's asking how to fix the terminal command run hang. I'm assuming you're saying this when it comes to the shell integration, when you are running the command and it doesn't really realize that there's an output to it. Make sure your shell integration is enabled. So that's one of the things that kind of used to happen in the past where shell integration wasn't enabled. So if you do Command-Shift-P, command palette, and type just shell integration, you should enable it. That should potentially fix it. Another thing is if you have a very overly complex ZSH file or a bashrc file, that can cause issues. So please bear that in mind. Yeah. I've seen that happen.
There's a million flavors of shells, and we're trying to support as many as we can. We have seen issues with a couple. PowerShell 10K, Power Level 10K is one where there's just a lot of different things that we have to sort through for integration.
And we have Damien saying 810 issues in GitHub. My God, that's amazing. So somebody even says, wish it could be a plugin for other IDs as opposed to using VS Code. Again, we talked a second ago why it was not a plugin, why it was a whole thing, because a lot of the features like listening for file changes, notifications, and a whole lot requires it to be its own application. So it's based on code open source. As a Vim user myself, I do wish it was a Vim thing, but I get it. Awesome. Okay, so let's look at stuff you've built. I know you built a bunch of stuff, and Nathan was showing me a couple of cool things he's built with Kiro over the last long time, and I want to discuss like how has this changed the way you build stuff, or how you approach software development, or how you approach pet projects, if most things.
Sure.
So go ahead and share your screen, and I'll put it up on the screen. So
see if I can get this.
Folks, about the pricing and stuff, like I really don't know. Like that's something I really don't know. So please keep on checking Kiro.dev. As we're working through all the feedback, all of the ways we want to make sure it works for you, the information is going to be there. Also, join us on Discord, discord.gg/Kiro.dev. I'm gonna chat. Can somebody post a link to Discord? discord.gg/Kiro.dev so people can easily join. Okay, so does that work?
Yes. Here.
You can just do the whole screen. I'll put it up when you want. So let's see. Thank you, both of you. Appreciate it. Okay, cool. So what are we having here? What is that?
Yeah, so this is something that I was using. So I manage the Kiro team. I'm not in the day-to-day development, but
Sure.
I do want to use the product and see how it works. And I do have a long career as an engineer
Okay.
before I was leading the Kiro team. So wanted it to stay in touch, keep building things. And I used this site to just experiment with some little projects that we could use to see how spec-driven development was working and how I can use Kiro to continue to learn and grow and kind of explore new things. So a couple different projects here. One of them, like I have 3 kids, 2 boys and a girl. They're 12, 13, and 15, and they want to start to learn a little bit more about software development.
Okay.
So one of the things that I was working on with them is this 2048 game. And so everybody basically knows how 2048 works. You have numbers, you combine them. As you combine them, you multiply up the blocks until you get to a 2048 block.
Yeah.
One of the things that we were looking at is, so we used Kiro and we used the spec to build this game itself. One of the things that I wanted to understand is like, I basically know how the rules work, but it's like tiles appear somewhere and it's like, how does that system work? So I was trying to understand the rules and understand how do you actually win this game? Because I'm like, if you kind of go in the same direction, that usually works pretty well. But like, I asked Kiro, can you implement me an auto solver?
Okay.
So like walking through with my son, we went from like his first question is like, what's 2048? And his second question, how is this built? And Kiro's explaining like this is built in TypeScript. It's a React app. He's like, what's TypeScript? And then so you can never ask too many questions of Kiro. And then we're looking at an auto solver. And so this will just kind of go through the game itself and it'll solve it for you. And so I wanted to understand like, how do you actually beat this game? And like, what is the right strategy? What's the right techniques? So we went from, we went from what is TypeScript to talking about different heuristics to, here, let me open the file.
That's a lot of specs here. I'm looking at it like, that's been a big thing. Okay.
So this was something that I helped Kiro build. Let me see. Actually, instead of me trying to find it,
ask Kiro.
Does the auto solver in 2048 work?
So while that's happening, I just want to address a couple of comments here. Live45 says, do you guys care about having good autocomplete? I feel like most IDs. Autocomplete is kind of a VS Code thing, like the code OSS thing. So when it comes to specific languages, you may want to install specific LSPs. So it's accessible to most plugins. I'm going to use a big old asterisk. Most plugins work there, and you could just get your LSP and it should be better. So that's kind of the beauty of this platform because you can modify it to your own content, to your own heart's content.
And we do have autocomplete built into Kiro, but most of the focus has been. There are a lot of solutions out there for online autocomplete. We wanted to make sure that we're giving the best experience for the spec-driven development workflow because that is the piece that's novel. That is what we want to bring that's different than what everybody's seen.
Exactly. Okay, that's really cool. Yeah, and again, it has you can do Command I. You can do all kinds of autocomplete. I don't know what kind of autocomplete you're talking about. Is that autocomplete or the traditional autocomplete? Okay. Carbonize is asking AI-generated commit messages when? Now. Agentic hooks, my friend. So one of the things that I've realized is that you can create agentic hooks to do specific tasks for you, and those tasks could be commit messages, right? It can actually even run command. It can run commands for you, right?
Sure.
So you can create a agentic hook that you can say like, I don't know, be a little bit more creative because it watches files. You can have a specific file being saved, or you can create a file called commit.md and make a change into it. And anytime you make a change, it takes the latest Git and makes those things. So you can do all of those fun things with agentic hooks.
Yeah, and another thing you can also use is this agent steering. So agent steering. We have all these.
Zoom in, Command +1 circle. Thanks so much.
We'll close this. So yeah, talking about how we implemented this auto solver. So it uses all these different heuristics to figure out what is the right move to make, and it has weights. I could try to read all this, but like if I'm going to explain this to a 10-year-old, that's not going to go well.
True.
So you can ask Kiro, it'll explain everything for you. Going back to, can I auto commit things with these steering documents? These steering documents can be anything.
Okay.
So we will let you, if you say, Kiro steering, you can generate steering docs.
Right.
We'll have a tech structure and product that kind of describes your repo. But if I come to, we'll say product. Here, it'll just tell the agent a little bit of a description of what your package is like, how it's structured, just to help give it an understanding as it's doing any kind of work. These files are anything that you want to inform the agent as you're going through your workflow. So if you want to have a workflow where every time Kiro makes a change, like one of the things that I like to do is tell it, if you make a change, commit the change every single turn. Every time I give you a prompt, summarize the changes that you made, make that a informative commit message, and even I want you to include the prompt that I sent you as part of the commit message, and then so you can build your own workflow using either hooks or steering.
Yeah, that's really good. I think steering docs, folks. If you have not checked steering docs, because it's not the first thing that pops up, definitely don't sleep on steering docs. It's such an amazing thing. You're adding additional context or guidance how Kiro should act. Are you getting paged?
It's okay.
That's okay. You can go.
No, it's okay. My team's on it.
Okay. It's a production thing. So string docs are kind of this whole thing where you give additional instruction to Kiro depending on the project type. There's no way currently to do global steering docs, right? It's only per project in this case.
Not right now.
Right, yeah. So per project steering docs, but you can kind of copy steering docs from other things. I've seen people kind of build out their own steering docs and keep kind of migrating them over for new projects. So it helps definitely steer the way Kiro works. In this case, you can tell it every time there's a commit or a series of commits, or you feel like you've finished the task, make a commit, generate the message to it, and it should be able to do that. So many things. I've expanded my Kiro usage so much with those steering docs that I just love it. Okay, so a question here. Kiro doesn't have Microsoft extension like Microsoft Live Share. Oh yeah, the live share feature is a feature of VS Code that people can live share. I don't know if this is a limitation of code open source, but we heard you. All of these features and things you're missing, please do let us know and drop them either on Discord or better yet, the GitHub issue. So we're trying to kind of address this. By the way, there's a bunch of folks in chat trying to capture all their messages. Thank you. What else did I want to talk about? I wanted to talk to you about. We talk about that. So yes. Building stuff. You have this AI playground. You built 2048. You have this whole thing. I have a question for you, and this is something that I personally love to use. Is when I build stuff with agents, with coding assistants, I love to learn. Right? Like if I just tell it to build a thing, it doesn't just feel right. Like I need to get something out of it. I need to have this satisfaction of me of actually learning something. What are some of the ways? Have you seen this people kind of as they're having Kiro build stuff to learn, how do they learn? Is there a practice people use, create some document or whatnot?
Yeah. So for me, with all these projects, the goal is to learn. The goal is to explore. So one of the things that I wanted to do is, I've played video games forever. I've never had the experience of actually building them myself.
Okay.
So there's a few games in here, but one of them I can go through is Sky Defense. And this was all built with spec-driven development. So I have my Sky Defense spec here, where I wanted to build a 2D vertical scrolling shooter. I didn't have any experience with Phaser, 3D.js. There's a lot of different frameworks. I've heard of them. I haven't had a chance to use them. So I wanted to take an opportunity to say, there's all these games that I was influenced by. I want to try to build something and just explore it. So I put this together. The pixel art is not my forte, so we'll apologize for that. But essentially, it's something that just wanted to see how does things like collision detection work? How do you build the logic of games? How do you have state management to where I can come in here and I can refresh the screen and I've unlocked level 2 where that was
Right.
blocked before. It's keeping my high scores. Learning things like how to optimize asset pooling and all of these things that I'd kind of heard about before, but like I have questions, and Kiro's helping me understand that as I'm building. So one of the things that I ran into trouble with is a way to improve the performance of games is to use sprites, to where you're using one file that has many different images on it. So one of the things,
also called a sprite sheet.
A sprite sheet, yeah. So I was having problems with getting the sprite sheet laid out just right and understanding like, okay, where do I need to position everything on the grid? So it's something that Kiro helped me solve that by I can load my sprite sheet in here. I can kind of debug the grid, and there's a lot of industry tools for this kind of stuff. I don't know any of that, so I'm helping. I'm using Kiro to help me build that solution. So like one of the things I wanted to be able to do is
can you zoom in? Does this support?
Zoom into this? Yeah. So I wanted to be able to come up here and say, take a look at how this sprite sheet grid was laid out, and be able to like control with my keyboard and kind of see how the sprite will behave in game. So stuff like this, where it's like you're able to build very, very focused tools, where it's like something like this, I would have never taken the time to build my own sprite debugger. But it was something that I wanted to kind of understand the mechanics of how it works. And instead of just like spending all day Googling things, I can just build it, and I can kind of explore a very, very focused tool to my specific problem that I had at hand.
Yeah. I like it. I think that's kind of one of the futures we're having right now, is that developers, people tech savvy, even people who are not that tech savvy, can go ahead and start building tools for themselves, right? Like as you said, you would never build that. Like, my little command line transcription utility, I would probably never build that, because I can just go and upload it to a bucket and do a bunch of clicks.
Yeah.
But I realized I can spend a couple of hours on it and just kind of like work with Kiro to help me build stuff.
Yeah.
I learned a couple of things.
Yeah.
And I built a little application that's just kind of now part of my toolkit, right?
You might have used something where it's like it's a behemoth application that has 500 features, and this is one of them. But like I'm able to build a very, very focused application for my specific problem, and that lets me solve the problem at hand with something that just wouldn't have been feasible to build before.
I love it. Question here from Idea Geek. He's asking, great playground, Nathan. Can we get the specs? Is this public? I mean, they can access the link.
It's not public yet. That is something that I do want to open it up. So I will probably share it soon.
Yeah. You know, I'm always ashamed of my code. So I also am very careful. I'm not saying you're ashamed of your code, but still sharing a lot of your code can be like, I don't really know. I do encourage you folks, when you build something and you have really cool, if you build something really cool with Kiro, share the spec. Well, maybe not. Well, you can share the whole spec with the team, right? It's kind of a cool thing that helps people maybe build the same thing you've done, but also kind of modify it, work on it. And imagine this future where people have a repo, like my repo has my specs on them, and they can just kind of iterate on it. When they do a fork, if you use Kiro, you can just kind of iterate on those specs, which is kind of a real cool thing. Excellent. Love that. Love all of those things. So let me figure this one out. I want to show you, chat, something. I want to show you, what do I want to show? I want to show you my project that I built recently, and you can actually see the specs there. So one moment, please. My little my GitHub account. There we go. Where's my repos? Is it public? It should be public. It is. Okay. So I'm going to drop a link in the chat so you can see my application. And like I mentioned, one of the things that happens here with this is that Kiro specs remain in it, of course, unless you get to ignore them. In my case, there are Kiro specs. If you want to see the way I built my application, I built it using 2 specs. Basically, one change was the baseline, and the other change was implementation of a progress bar. And it's great. It's all there. You can see it. You can follow along. So for folks out there that are building spec sharing websites, there you go. A question: is there swag and can we get purchase? There's no swag to purchase just yet. I do have a nice little Kiro shirt. It's a little small, tiny Kiro.
Yeah.
We have Kiro mugs and stickers, but TBD. We do want to get you some stuff there. Well, I do see folks here from my part of the world. Hello, Keen Diriai. Okay, so a little bit more about Kiro. So you probably used coding assistants in the past. There was a question somewhere. I can't figure out where to scroll. But somebody mentioned how many things of Kiro were built with Kiro.
A lot more over time.
Yeah.
So, and that was when we knew that we were on the right direction, where early on it was something where we had the ideas like the test-driven development. The feedback that I got from the team was that like this wasn't making our lives better as engineers. So at that point we knew like, let's take a different approach. Let's evolve. Let's make sure that this is better. As we refined to the spec experience we have now, it became a tool where it's like we would not be successful trying to deliver this if you took the tool away.
Yeah.
So you mentioned notifications before.
Okay.
Like that was one of the features that that would not have been possible without Kiro and without the tools that we have with spec-driven development. That was a feature that we have internal testers. We had given it to a private community to give us feedback on what we can change, what we can improve. One of the things that we heard was Kiro is great. There's times where if it's doing a lot of work, if it's generating the spec, there's times where like I want to flip over, I wanted to check email, check Slack, whatever it is, and then come back when Kiro needs my attention. Yeah. But there wasn't any way to know like, is it waiting for me or can I keep going? So with push notifications, the challenge is Kiro is an Electron app, so it has a lot of different threads that are going on that in order to make notifications work, we have to do message passing between those threads. There's Windows, there's Linux, there's Mac. Every single platform implements notifications different. It was the kind of thing that we would love to respond to this feedback. We would love to add this feature, but like for us, we were getting close to launch. It was too much risk to even explore what that might look like. Because we didn't have anybody that had that cross-platform notification experience that were an expert in that like very narrow domain. So one of the things, we had somebody on the team that was like, I really want to get this done. I really want to respond to that feedback. So they were able to, in the matter of a day, talk to Kiro, refine their requirements, work on a spec, and then they were able to have a working solution that same day. So there was something where as the team, we were able to say like, okay, we see this, it's working. We need to clean up the code a little bit. We'll refine this. We'll make some changes to make it a little bit more robust, but like fundamentally it's working. So it fundamentally changes the decision for me as an engineering leader to say like, I've seen this, I know it's working. I know that we've managed the risk and we really understand the scope of how long it's going to take us to ship this. And we know that we can give a good experience. So that's something that without Kiro, we would have said no to. But with Kiro, we're able to deliver a feature and we're able to deliver it much faster. Yeah,
it is definitely part of that. Like those, especially if you scope down your feature requirements, it is such a seamless way of getting those things in. And again, thanks to the spec feature, I feel very confident in what it's doing. Right, it doesn't really get out of control. So wonderful, amazing. So Chad, just so you know, we're going to be doing this live stream. We still need to figure out what the exact cadence is, what time it is, but it's going to be a weekly show where we do on Twitch and all of our platforms. We're going to have folks like Nathan here joining us from the team, kind of talking a little bit behind the scenes stuff. We're going to have some folks who are also senior principal developers. We can talk about all kinds of ways they use this stuff, but also we're going to be coding things. So any suggestions about live streaming, any suggestions about things you would love to see on this kind of show, discord.gg/kiro.dev. Leave them there. You can tag me in it. We're going to create a live streaming channel so we can have a little bit more kind of a streamlining of that. But do tag me in your suggestions and ideas on Discord. I would love to hear them. I thank you for sharing Discord links, chat. You're the best. Just putting it on screen. Amazing. So I guess we're slowly coming into a wrap up. I want to hear you've been using Kiro longer than anybody out there. Your tips and tricks for the chat. Give me your top 3 tips when it comes to using Kiro for building software or building on top of existing software.
It is not at all productive, but one of my favorite features is to use steering files to give Kiro a different personality. So you can tell it, like, I want you to talk to me like this. I want you to take on this persona. Maybe it's a video game character. It's the kind of thing that it just makes the coding experience a little bit more fun. Not helpful at all, but like I enjoy it.
Okay.
The other thing is, like, if there's anything that you don't know how to do, if you don't understand steering, you don't understand specs, hooks, like you even fundamentally, you're like, what is this thing for? Just ask the agent. If you're having problems with MCP, like anything you need help configuring, you need help setting it up. Kiro understands its features. It understands how to configure everything. The answer to almost every question is just ask.
Okay, just ask. So one of the things I like to do when I work with Kiro is I tell it up front, hey, don't generate any code, just answer my question. Because at times when I have a question, like, I don't know, how do you handle NUMA in Rust? And it's, oh, here's the code. Like, no, I don't care about the code. Tell me how it's worked. Like, I don't want you to go ahead and start writing my files. So giving it a little of a prompt before of like, just tell me, just talk to me about it, is just a great way of doing it. I will give you one tip I love to do, is that when I finish my building session, when I finish my my specs, my tasks, I tell it everything we've done today. Give me a summary of it in a build.md file. Or build _ current date MD file. The reason is just I love to kind of archive those so I know exactly what happened. So if I didn't realize something during the Kiro spec-driven development, or I maybe missed a step, or I didn't fully understand the code, I have this build _ date file, and where I look at it and I have a little bit
like
more
a delivery log.
Like a delivery log. And then like I look over it and I look at the code and I don't really understand what something is. And I'm like, okay, in this file, there's this specific implementation you're running. Tell me more about it and take note of it in the build log. It helps me so much. Again, I need to feel confident about my code, and this kind of keeps me definitely in the loop. So amazing. Well, chat, thank you so much for a lot of questions. There's one more question here about asking, where is it, about hooks. Okay, if there are hook examples, please share them. Now, there's a lot of great examples already built into the application, like about document generation and other stuff. However, I've seen excellent examples. I don't have them with me, but I've seen them. People talk about them. Is combining hooks with MCP servers. Let's say you make a change, you make a commit, right? One of the things that I've seen is like somebody, every time you make a Git commit, update a Jira ticket, right? Yeah. Or every time you make a Git commit, migrate my database or something. I don't know, be careful. But combining MCP servers with hooks is incredibly powerful. So it's not just for documentation generation, it can do so much more. So I have a stupid hook. Every time I make a commit, it turns on the light in my room.
There you go.
I have a Home Assistant MCP server, so every time I make a commit, it just turns on a green light. Hey, it's the little things. But do suggest your agentic hook ideas on Discord. There's a whole best practices channel on Discord where people share their best practices. Definitely go and drop them there. It's a treasure trove of cool things you can find out.
There's a good question here. I can.
Which one? Let me find you. What would
that one?
What would you use, vibe mode versus spec mode?
Okay, so for spec mode, that's really if you want to build something new, if you want to change your application, if you want to build a new feature, like the real heavy lifting happens in spec mode. What we see vibe mode for, if you need to ideate, if you want to explore, if you want to ask questions, if you want to debug. Vibe mode is great for that. Okay. So if you're running into a problem with your application, if you have a stack trace, just dump the stack trace in there. It doesn't need any context, just give it the error message. It'll deal with it. So like if you're trying to explore a code base and if you're asking questions, we kind of see it as more of that is the exploration, the debugging, the learning mode, and then spec is for the heavy lifting for the building. Okay, I like that. I do definitely, that's the case. Vibe coding is definitely for exploration, trying to stuff out. I love it when I kind of like trying to build something. Well, not build. When I'm trying to explore something like can this work?
vibe mode works really great. Excellent. Thank you for the question, Mephi Maxi. So one of the things I want to do before we drop off is this. Look at that. It has completed task 1. It has done a bunch of tests. So let me just go back here. So task 1 has been completed. You can see here that it's basically done a bunch of changes to my main RS file. I'm going to assume here, where is it? It's created all the files needed. It created main RS. So it has made changes to this. It seems to be successful, and it's ready to take on another task. Look at that. That's as we were talking, it was building. Glorious, glorious. Perfect. Chat, I have one thing to ask you. If you're watching this on Twitch or YouTube or LinkedIn or Twitter, first of all, I want to ask the chat mods to drop the links to all of those platforms. So Twitter, Twitch, Discord, YouTube. If you like this content, if you like what we're doing here, drop us a follow, a subscribe, a like, whatever the thing is, because we're going to try to do a lot more of these as we go along. We do appreciate it. I think our Twitch channel this morning had 150 followers, so I don't know if we beat it, but it's great if we have. I am blown away by the support, by the amount of people here in chat, and by the questions. Really, really good. We're going to be seeing you here on these platforms in the future. And thank you so much for using Kiro, checking out, and please do let us know any feedback you have. We have your questions here. We have all the stuff. We're going to try to answer them as much as we can. I'll see you all on Discord later on, and I'm going to have to let Nathan go here to answer all of his pages. Go back and make the service work. Chat, bye.